You know about the drugs, time spent in prison, allegations against law enforcement, and iconic political figures here in the city of Detroit, along with attempts on his life. Rick Wershe Jr., yes, known as White Boy Rick, is also sharing his candor on prison reform and rebuilding the city of Detroit by doing so at a place where it all started.
From the harsh realities of 1980s Detroit, a city marred by economic decay, emerged a true crime enigma. Richard Wershe Jr., known as White Boy Rick, arrested at the tender age of only 17 for his involvement in the city's drug trade even while working undercover for the police. Rick's life became a captivating narrative, weaving through legal battles and controversies. His case sparked debates about justice and the complexities of navigating an existence as both a teenage drug dealer and an FBI informant. Join us as we examine the turbulent journey of White Boy Rick, exploring the events leading to his arrest, sentencing, and the gripping events that defined him as a true crime legend in the heart of Detroit. Detroit in the 1980s was a city wrestling with tough times, where buildings stood as silent witnesses to economic struggles, and the streets echoed with the challenges of survival. But down in Detroit was a young boy, Richard Wershe Jr., known to many as White Boy Rick. Born on July 18, 1969 in Michigan to parents Richard Wershe Sr. and Darlene McCormick, Rick's early life unfolded against a backdrop of urban decay and challenges. Richard didn't grow up in the easiest of circumstances. Imagine a kid trying to figure things out in a city where money was tight. Well, that's where Rick's story starts, a teenager with limited choices, all of which seem to be leading him to a life of crime.
I bought a car when I was 15 years old. Sweatsuits, jewelry, cars. Well, I was making more money than the adults that I knew.
Even though things were tough, Richard had his family. Raised in a modest household, his family became a resilient nucleus amid the struggles of their neighborhood. He grew up living with his parents and his brothers and sisters. Rick's family lived in a regular house in a neighborhood ridiculed by unemployment, with jobs pretty hard to come by. Even though their home wasn't fancy, it was still a warm place filled with family love, a safe spot away from the tough stuff outside. The family stuck together in a tough city, and this support was like a safety net, a net that would eventually break open. In simple terms, family was like a guidebook for him. Parents shared wisdom, and siblings were like teammates helping each other navigate the challenges of growing up in Detroit. But outside, the streets had old factories that reminded everyone that things were not so great. It was within these streets lined with abandoned factories that Rick learned the harsh realities of life. The city itself was going through a tough time too. There were very few opportunities, and most people were unsatisfied with their living conditions. Soon, Rick stumbled on what appeared to be a good opportunity. His life was about to take a drastic turn, first for the better and next for the unexpected. At the age of 14, Rick got involved in what was to make him the youngest FBI informant of all time. He got recruited into the police. His job was to work undercover and provide information and hidden locations of drug dealers. His new position as an informant connected him with a drug gang, a gang that would expose him to the world of drugs and the immense amount of money that could be made from dealing. Rick, who was only a teenager from a struggling family in a city as difficult as Detroit, couldn't resist. He soon found himself in the drug trade, unable to draw the line between being an informant and a loyal gang member. The Curry brothers, Johnny and Leo, whom Rick was attached to, were notorious drug dealers. They mainly trafficked marijuana and cocaine and were being investigated by the FBI for drug-related activities. According to the Detroit News, law enforcement authorities estimated that the gang had one of the largest cocaine and marijuana operations in Detroit. At just 14 years old, Rick became part of their significant drug trafficking operation. The Curry brothers believed that using a young person like Rick to transport drugs would attract less attention from authorities. Interestingly, it was later discovered that they were aware of Rick's dad's involvement in the trade of unauthorized guns and his connections to the police. This knowledge likely played a role in their decision to recruit Rick into their drug trade operation. As Rick stepped into the world of selling drugs, he soon found out that he was really good at it. The Curry brothers saw potential in him, and soon he became a significant part of their drug trafficking operation. A young teenager suddenly emerged in the complex world of crime and making more money than he could dream of. In little to no time, Rick's role extended beyond just transporting drugs. He started taking on more responsibilities within the curry trafficking gang. The dynamics of the criminal hierarchy became evident as he quickly climbed up the ranks, influenced by the trust the Curry brothers placed in him. From a young recruit, Rick evolved into a key player in their illegal enterprise. Soon, the teenager was a popular figure in Detroit's underground world. During this period, he formed several alliances. Rick's alliances were crucial as he navigated the criminal hierarchy. He built connections with individuals within the gang, earning trust and respect. These alliances were based on shared goals and mutual dependence, creating a network that supported his growing role. The Curry gang was no doubt a force, but they were not the only drug gang. They had competitors and rivalries, and as expected when it came to the drug business, conflicts were inevitable. Rick encountered challenges from rival factions within the criminal underworld and equally faced internal conflicts within the Curry gang. These conflicts arose from competition for territory, disputes over deals, and the inherent tension that comes with a life immersed in illegal activities. It was a dangerous dance where every misstep could have serious consequences. Amidst the complexities of the criminal hierarchy, Rick soon found himself navigating a dual life. Not only was he deeply entrenched in the Curry trafficking gang, but he was also a crucial informant for the FBI. Rick's role as an FBI informant added an intricate layer to his already complex journey. The information he provided became a valuable asset for the authorities, offering a glimpse into the inner workings of the Curry gang. But leading a double life required careful maneuvering as Rick walked a precarious tightrope between criminal involvement and cooperation with law enforcement. Struggling to maintain his cover, Rick's alliances within the criminal underworld started falling apart. The friends he made and the people he trusted all began to question his loyalty. Slowly, the close-knit group started breaking apart with suspicion and mistrust creeping in. The criminals could sense that something was off as Rick's actions and choices didn't align with their expectations. Alliances that were previously strong began to fall apart, leaving Rick isolated in a world where trust is everything. The loss of these alliances brought a sense of tension and danger, not just to the Curry gang but also to Rick himself. As Rick's activities as an informant became known, the consequences he faced were severe and far-reaching. His meticulously kept secrets were suddenly exposed, leading to a chain reaction of troubles. The consequences of his exposed secret extended beyond damaged relationships. Rick faced heightened dangers from those who now saw him as a threat. The underground world doesn't take kindly to betrayals, and Rick became a target. His life was in jeopardy as he faced the aftermath of his undercover activities. The threats on Rick's life were no joke. At 16, he survived a drive-by shooting in Detroit. This incident further highlighted the dangers associated with his involvement in the criminal underworld. A teenager who already had so many enemies, they were willing to eliminate him from the scene. But things were about to get even worse for the teenager. In May 1987, during a routine traffic stop, law enforcement discovered nearly 9 kilos of cocaine concealed in the trunk of his car. The significant finding resulted in his arrest and also became a central piece of evidence, playing a decisive role in the legal actions taken against him. The event marked a crucial turning point in Rick's story, linking him directly to the drug trade. Following the discovery of cocaine in Rick Wershe's car, a series of legal proceedings unfolded. A trial that left many wondering why the FBI chose to endanger the life of a teenage boy by making him an undercover informant in a drug trafficking investigation. The feds couldn't deny that they didn't know how dangerous Detroit's drug scene was. As Rick Wershe faced trial, the courtroom became a stage where the lawyers of his biography were unveiled comprehensively. This was not just a legal proceeding. It was a moment of reckoning for a young man whose life had been entangled in the mess that was Detroit's drug scene. A man who should have been in high school and not an integral part of a drug distribution network. As the courtroom listened, the socioeconomic environment that shaped Rick's early experiences was painted vividly. Scarce opportunities and a city yearning for a better future played defining roles in his journey. The courtroom heard not just about his involvement in criminal activities, but also about the socioeconomic factors that contributed to his choices. Rick faced serious charges related to drug trafficking. The legal proceedings involved intense courtroom battles, with the prosecution presenting evidence of his involvement in the drug trade. The discovery of cocaine in his possession served as a key piece of evidence. Rick's defense argued various aspects, including the circumstances of the arrest and potential coercion. Despite the legal arguments, he was ultimately convicted. Rick Wershe Jr. was charged with multiple drug-related offenses, including possession with intent to deliver cocaine. The weight of the cocaine discovered in his car made it worse as it intensified the severity of the charges. In the end, 18-year-old Rick was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The legal system treated him as a key figure in the drug trade, reflecting the public perception of his role. This decision sparked a lot of controversies. The public's reaction to Rick's sentence was mixed. While some people supported it, others felt it was rather too harsh considering that he got entangled in the mess working for the FBI. A teenager thrown into a world of crime that swallows even adults. Some saw him as a young and misguided individual caught up in a dangerous world, while others viewed him as a significant player in the drug trade. The media coverage intensified the public's interest in the case. Rick, known as White Boy Rick, became a symbol of the challenges within Detroit's crime-ridden landscape. But perhaps his arrest and incarceration were a good thing, as he could have lost his life at the rate at which he was going. Confined to small spaces and bound by strict routines, each day in prison presented new challenges for the teenager. Life behind bars was tough, with the constant presence of danger shaping Rick's reality. In this harsh environment, Rick navigated not only physical constraints, but also the mental toll of being incarcerated at such a tender age. Within the prison walls, relationships took on a different meaning. Rick forged connections with fellow inmates, creating a network of support amid the tough circumstances. During his time in prison, Rick was known to be of good behavior and conduct, although it was termed fake by the police following the fact that he still blamed the law for his position. Rick claimed he wasn't behind bars simply because he was caught with cocaine. He claimed he was behind bars without the possibility of parole because of dirty cops who wanted to shut him up forcefully. For years, he kept up with his good behavior, which the cops believed was fake, but nothing seemed to be happening. It was as if he finally decided to be himself. In the early 2000s, something unexpected happened. White Boy Rick was accused of stealing a car.
Well, breaking news involving the infamous drug dealer known as White Boy Rick. We've learned he's been arrested in Florida. Rick Wershe Jr. is charged with robbery and battery, accused of attacking his girlfriend,
leaving many puzzled as to how he could pull such from behind bars. If you're left wondering about the motivations behind the surprise, the answers are as elusive as they are intriguing. For the if, there's no doubt that Rick Wershe did find himself entangled in the web of an auto car theft. The why, however, remains shrouded in mystery. It makes no sense. Rick's reported involvement in the stolen car ring from behind bars can be traced back to the connections he forged within the correctional facility where he served his sentence. This incident challenges preconceptions about the rehabilitative nature of incarceration.
This got blown way out of proportion. When I was charged, this thing went worldwide. It wasn't just on a national basis.
The very environment designed for correction seemingly offered a breeding ground for a new wave of criminal association. And for a criminal like White Boy Rick, who understood the importance of alliances, the prison was full of opportunities. His involvement in the car theft landed him in even more trouble as he got an extra 5-year sentence. But really, that was just a drop in the ocean as he was already serving a life sentence. In 2016, something startling happened in Rick Wershe's story. A notorious Detroit hitman, someone who used to do harmful things for money, claimed that another person, Hill, tried to pay someone to hurt or kill Rick while in prison. This news shocked many, as we were left wondering about the dangerous feelings and conflicts that could still be going on even after Rick's tough time in the legal system. Revelations of someone trying to arrange to harm or even kill Rick revealed a lot about the dark side of his life, years after he was incarcerated. It went beyond just legal problems, and it opened law enforcement to the possibility that he could have been involved in shady dealings, far deeper than they could have predicted even while in prison. This revelation hinted at long-lasting tensions and problems in the world Rick was a part of, leading to even more questions as people wondered about the possible reasons behind the serious threat to Rick's life. Authorities and investigators looked into the truth of these claims, trying to figure out the possible motives, alliances, and history that might explain why someone would want to harm Rick in such a shocking way years after he was taken off the streets. In 2017, after decades in prison, Rick's case finally caught the attention of people who fought for fairness in the legal system, and as a result, he was let out of prison. But that was when his car theft crime came back to haunt him. Instead of going completely free, he was sent to another prison in Florida to serve 5 more years for a crime involving stealing a car in 2008. People who support Rick and want things to be fair told reporters that the reason Rick had to stay in prison for so long might be connected to him helping the FBI. There are rumors that as an informant he gave information that led to the arrest of people related to the former mayor of Detroit, Coleman A. Young, and also to a person who was friends with the mayor, Hill. The political side of things introduced a new dimension to an already suspicious sentencing: life imprisonment without the option of parole. With such a revelation, people question if the judicial system was compromised and Rick was a victim of such. Rick's life sentence now feels a bit harsh, as the people who fought for him believe that there might be more to the story than was officially told, and they want everyone to know about it. When Rick finally walked out of prison, it was a period of mixed emotions for the man whose most important years had been spent in incarceration. Yes, he was now free, but he was surrounded by uncertainty, the weight of past choices, and the unknowns of a future waiting to be written. Transitioning from being locked up to being out in the free world again was like stepping into a maze of emotions and challenges. The outside world had changed while Rick was away, and he had changed too. Detroit was no longer how he remembered it to be, and he was no longer the fearless teenager looking to conquer the world. Finding a job that would accept someone with a criminal past was tough, talk less of a man as infamous as Rick whose story was widely known. People judged him for what he did years ago, and missed chances haunted him. The world had moved forward, but Rick felt stuck in a time he couldn't get back. Technology had evolved far beyond what Rick had seen as a teenager, and now the little knowledge he had was obsolete. It was like trying to understand a language you've forgotten, but now it was even more complex. Rick had to learn how to use smartphones, computers, and everything else that had become a part of everyday life. Yet, amid the struggles, a positive light beckoned. Reconnecting with family and friends strained by the passage of time was like rebuilding bridges. The resilience that defined Rick's life became a story of triumph over adversity. After the initial wave in the 80s, White Boy Rick's story once again gained widespread attention in the early 2010s, particularly around 2015 to 2016 when discussions about his case became more prominent on a national scale and everyone started talking about it on social media, news shows, and even in everyday conversations. Hashtags built around the conversation spread like wildfire, pulling people into a real-life drama that unfolded with each twist and turn. This viral wave didn't stop in the courtroom. It shone a light on bigger problems in our society, showing how tough it can be for someone to turn their life around. It became a moment where the story of White Boy Rick made us all think about crime, punishment, and what it means to give someone a second chance. In 2018, White Boy Rick's life made its way to the silver screen, captivating audiences with a cinematic adaptation that delved into the intricacies of his tumultuous journey. The movie, simply titled White Boy Rick, became a visual tapestry that sought to breathe life into the pages of Rick's story. The adaptation added a layer of storytelling, offering a sensory experience that went beyond words on a page. The movie depicted the struggles of 1980s Detroit, the challenges Rick faced, and the moments of triumph and tragedy that punctuated his life. White Boy Rick's story left an indelible mark on the true crime genre, resonating with audiences far beyond the confines of his tumultuous life. It wasn't just about the crimes he committed. It was a reflection of social complexities and the thin line between victim and perpetrator. His story is beyond the bounds of personal narrative, leaving a profound impact on both the criminal justice system and public perception. In the realm of criminal justice, Rick's story became a case study, a lens through which experts and policymakers scrutinized the nuances of law enforcement practices, and the public perception shifted as White Boy Rick's journey unfolded. Many wondered if it was legal for the FBI to endanger a minor by assigning him to a drug gang as an undercover informant. And there you have it, the roller coaster ride through White Boy Rick's life. But as we wrap things up, we're not tying everything with a neat bow. Instead, we're left with some things to think about. What can we learn from Rick's journey? Is the legal system as fair as it has been portrayed to be? Or maybe we can never really defeat corruption in the system. Also, could his arrest have saved his life? White Boy Rick's tale isn't just a court story. It's a mirror reflecting challenges in our society, personal strength, and the ongoing search for a fresh start. So, as we think back on Rick's place in the true crime world, let these questions hang in the air. His time behind bars might have come to an end, but its impact lingers. It encourages us to dig into the details of crime, punishment, and the never-give-up spirit of those reaching for a new beginning. In the True Crime Library, where stories unfold like chapters in a mystery novel, White Boy Rick's story is one that keeps us wondering, leaving us with more to think about than clear-cut answers.